I never thought I would be sitting here staring at an email from a lawyer telling me my own son has instructed them to send a cease and desist letter. No contact. None. At 42 years old, I have been cut off completely by the person I love most in this world. The message was clear and cold, but nothing compared to the final email Ethan sent me directly before that. Just one line. You failed me when I needed you most. I keep replaying that phone call from 6 years ago, the one where he was 16, crying, begging me to bring him home from boarding school. I can still hear his voice breaking as I told him to toughen up. Now he is 24, and I do not even know where he lives. Before we dive deeper into how I lost my son, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? If this story resonates with you, or if you have ever felt misunderstood by someone you love, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, what comes next will show you exactly how a single moment can unravel everything you thought you were building. Let me take you back to when I thought I was making the right choice. My name is Fernando, and 6 years ago, I was living what I believed was the American dream. I had worked my way up from nothing to become a senior civil engineer in Denver, Colorado. My projects were everywhere: bridges, highways, buildings that would stand for generations. My wife Sarah was a resident physician at one of the top hospitals in the state. We had money, status, respect. But we also had no time, and caught in the middle of our ambition was our son, Ethan. Ethan was 15 then, a quiet kid who loved sketching in his notebooks and reading fantasy novels. He was not into sports like the other boys. He did not wrestle or play football. He preferred spending Saturday afternoons at the art museum downtown rather than on a field. I told myself that was fine, that he would find his way. But then the teasing started at his public high school. Kids called him soft, weak, too sensitive. I saw him withdrawing, spending more time alone in his room. Sarah and I barely noticed because we were drowning in our own schedules. I would leave for work at 6 in the morning and return at 10 at night. Sarah worked overnight shifts 3 times a week. One evening, Sarah and I made a decision over takeout Chinese food in our kitchen. We decided to send Ethan to St. Augustine Preparatory Academy in Massachusetts, one of those elite boarding schools with a waiting list a mile long. I had connections through a colleague whose son went there. The campus looked like something out of a movie, all brick buildings and tradition. I convinced myself this was the answer. Ethan would get structured discipline, a fresh start, away from the kids who tormented him. He would be surrounded by the best education money could buy. This will make him a man, I told Sarah. He will learn independence. It is what I wish I had growing up. Sarah agreed. She thought the academics and opportunities would help him thrive. When I sat Ethan down to tell him, I expected resistance. Instead, he just nodded slowly, looking down at his hands. He asked in a small voice if he could stay home and switch schools locally instead. I said no, that this was a better opportunity, that he would thank me later. I remember driving him to the airport that August morning. He tried to smile, tried to act brave, but his eyes were red and swollen. I hugged him and said, "You are going to do great things, son." Then I watched him walk through security, his backpack almost too heavy for his thin frame. The first 3 months seemed okay. Ethan called every Sunday evening like clockwork. He told us about his classes, his roommate, the autumn leaves, covering the quad. His voice sounded steady, if a bit distant. I felt validated. See, I told Sarah he is adjusting just fine. But I was not paying close enough attention. The calls started getting shorter. His answers became vague. When I asked how things were going, he would say fine and change the subject. I was too busy to notice the shift. I was managing a massive bridge construction project that required me to be on site, constantly dealing with contractors, inspectors, and deadlines that felt impossible. One Sunday in late October, Ethan mentioned something in passing. "Dad, some guys here are really mean. They threw my sketchbook in the trash yesterday." I was reviewing blueprints on my laptop while we talked, only half listening. I responded without looking up from the screen. "Stand up for yourself," I said. "Do not let them push you around. You are stronger than that." There was silence on the other end. Then Ethan said, "Okay," and asked about the weather in Denver. I thought I had given him solid advice, the kind of advice my own father had given me. My father was a carpenter who immigrated from Mexico with nothing. He raised me with an iron fist and one rule: men do not cry, men solve problems. I resented him for years for being so hard on me, for never asking how I felt about anything. But I told myself that toughness had made me successful. So why would I not pass that same lesson to Ethan? Then came the call that changed everything. It was a Thursday night in mid-November, almost 11 o'clock my time, which meant 1 in the morning in Massachusetts. I was in the conference room of my office, sitting across from 2 business partners from a Japanese construction firm. We were negotiating a $3 million contract, and the meeting was going poorly. My phone buzzed on the table. "Ethan." I almost ignored it, but something made me excuse myself. I stepped into the hallway and answered. Dad. Ethan sobbed into the phone. The sound of his crying was raw, desperate, nothing like I had ever heard from him before. "Please, I cannot take it anymore. They locked me in the bathroom tonight. They poured ice water on me while I was sleeping last week. They call me names every single day. I do not know what to do." My first thought, and I am ashamed to admit, this was not concern. It was frustration. I was in the middle of the most important meeting of my career, and I needed to get back in that room. I rubbed my eyes, exhausted from 14-hour days. "Ethan, you are 16 now," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to toughen up. This is preparing you for the real world. Life is tough. You think I did not face challenges when I was your age? Just ignore them and focus on your studies. You will be fine." "But Dad," Ethan started, his voice cracking. "I am telling you, I really need help. I need to come home." I sighed, glancing back at the conference room door. "Son, I have an important meeting right now that I really need to finish. We will talk this weekend, okay? You are going to be fine. Trust me, just get some sleep." There was silence. Then Ethan whispered, "Okay, Dad." The line went dead. I stood there for maybe 5 seconds before walking back into the meeting, pushing the call out of my mind. I told myself he was being dramatic, that teenagers exaggerate, that he would calm down and realize I was right. I closed that contract that night. $3 million. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt a strange hollowness I could not name. After that call, Ethan stopped reaching out. No more Sunday phone calls, no more texts. At first I barely noticed because I was consumed by work. The bridge project hit a critical phase, and I was spending 16-hour days on site. Sarah asked me once over breakfast if I had heard from Ethan lately. I shrugged and said he was probably busy with exams. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I tried calling him a few times, but he never picked up. I sent a text. "Hey, bud, everything okay?" No response. I convinced myself this was normal teenage behavior, that he just needed space. Boys his age do not want to talk to their parents all the time, I reasoned. He would reach out when he was ready. Then, on a gray morning in early December, my phone rang while I was reviewing construction permits. The caller ID said, "St. Augustine Preparatory Academy." My stomach dropped. "Mr. Ramirez, this is Dean Thompson. We need to discuss your son, Ethan." The dean's voice was grave. I gripped the phone tighter. "What happened?" I asked. "Is he hurt?" Dean Thompson paused. "Ethan was found in the school infirmary 3 days ago. He had a severe panic attack during his history class. The school counselor has been working with him since then." 3 days, I repeated, my voice rising. "Why was I not informed immediately? Ethan requested we not contact you," the dean said carefully. "But given the severity of the situation, we felt we had no choice but to reach out now." My hands started shaking. "What do you mean, severity?" the dean continued. "Ethan has been experiencing severe bullying for months. We have launched a formal investigation and several students have been disciplined. But Ethan is refusing to return to his dormitory. He has been sleeping on a cot in the counselor's office because he does not feel safe. I felt like the floor was disappearing beneath me. I did not know it was this bad, I stammered. With all due respect, Mr. Ramirez, the dean said, and his tone had an edge to it. Now Ethan told our counselor he tried to reach out to you multiple times. He specifically mentioned a phone call where he explicitly asked for help and was told to, and I quote, toughen up. Those words hit me like a freight train. I could not breathe. The dean went on. We are recommending you come here immediately. Ethan needs his family right now. I do not think he should remain at this school, but that is a decision you will need to make together. I told him I would be on the next flight. I hung up and sat frozen at my desk for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I booked a ticket to Boston, my hands trembling so badly I could barely type. The flight felt endless. I kept replaying that November phone call in my head, hearing Ethan's sobs, remembering how I had brushed him off. I landed in Boston, rented a car, and drove 2 hours to the school. It was late afternoon when I arrived. The campus looked beautiful, all those historic buildings covered in early winter frost. I wanted to throw up. I met with Dean Thompson first, then the counselor, a woman named Mr. Patterson. She was kind but firm. Your son has been through significant trauma, she said. He needs time and support. Then she led me to a small room where Ethan was waiting. I will never forget what I saw. Ethan sat hunched in a chair, arms wrapped around himself. He looked so much thinner than when I had last seen him, his cheeks hollow. His eyes were red and swollen like he had been crying for days. When he saw me, there was no relief on his face, just emptiness. I stepped forward wanting to hug him, but he pulled back. Ethan, I am so sorry, I said, my voice breaking. I am here now. Let us go home. He looked at me with those hollow eyes and said flatly, You told me to toughen up. Remember, I tried to explain. I did not understand how serious it was, son. I thought I was helping you. Ethan laughed bitterly. I told you they were hurting me. I called you crying in the middle of the night, and you said you had a meeting. Mr. Patterson sat quietly nearby, watching us. I reached for Ethan's hand, but he pulled away. Son, please, I said desperately. I thought I was teaching you to be strong. That is how my father raised me. Ethan's eyes flashed with anger. Your father, he said. You mean the man you told me you resented your whole life? The one who made you feel like you were never good enough? The one who never listened to you? I froze. He was right. I had told Ethan those exact things years ago during a rare, honest conversation. I had opened up about my childhood, about how lonely I felt, growing up with a father who never asked how I was doing. And now I had done the same thing to my own son. I do not want to go home, Ethan said quietly. I do not want to be around you right now. What do you mean? I whispered. Mr. Patterson spoke up. Ethan has expressed that he would like to stay with a relative for a while. Is there someone appropriate? I thought of my younger sister, Lisa, who lived in Portland. She and Ethan had always been close. Aunt Lisa said, I can stay with her. Ethan confirmed, not meeting my eyes. But we need to work this out as a family, I pleaded. Ethan looked directly at me then. You were not there when I needed a family dad. I left the school that day in a daze. Ethan flew to Portland 2 days later. I did not even get to say goodbye. He texted me once to say he arrived safely. That was it. I drove back to Denver feeling like my chest had been ripped open. When I got home, Sarah was waiting. She had spoken to Dean Thompson herself. How could you not tell me he called you? She demanded, her face red with fury. How could you know he was suffering and do nothing? I had no answer. Our marriage, already strained, began to crumble. Sarah could not forgive me. Honestly, I could not forgive myself. The weeks after Ethan left were the darkest of my life. I went through the motions at work, but my heart was not in it. I would come home to an empty house and sit in Ethan's room surrounded by his abandoned belongings. One night I noticed a notebook on his shelf that I had never seen before. I opened it. It was a journal. The entries were dated from his time at boarding school. I read through them, tears streaming down my face. November 8th. I called Dad tonight. I thought he would save me. I thought he would understand. But he was too busy. I guess I am not important enough. I do not know what to do anymore. I feel so alone here. Nobody cares. I sobbed harder than I had since I was a child. All those years I spent trying not to be like my father, and I had become exactly like him. Worse, maybe. At least my father's coldness came from exhaustion and survival. Mine came from ambition and ego. Sarah and I separated 2 months later. She said she could not look at me the same way. I understood. I could not look at myself either. But somewhere in that darkness, something shifted. I realized I had 2 choices. I could wallow in guilt and self-pity, or I could fight to fix what I had broken. Even if it took years, even if Ethan never forgave me, I had to try. I started by finding a therapist. Not a family therapist yet, because Ethan would not even speak to me, just someone for myself. I found Dr. Michael Brennan, a psychologist who specialized in parenting and generational trauma. In our first session, I told him everything. He listened without judgment. Then he said something that changed my perspective. "Fernando, you were parenting from your wounds, not from wisdom. You were trying to fix your own childhood through Ethan, and in doing so, you ignored who he actually was." That hit me hard. I had spent so much energy trying to make Ethan tough that I never stopped to see that he needed to feel safe and loved first. Over the next few months, I did the hardest work of my life. I examined my relationship with my own father, unpacking decades of resentment and pain. I learned that the toughness I prized so much was actually just emotional avoidance. I had never learned how to process feelings, so I had taught my son to suppress his too. Dr. Brennan helped me see that real strength is not about never showing weakness. It is about being brave enough to be vulnerable, to admit when you are wrong, to ask for help. Everything I had failed to model for Ethan. I reached out to my sister Lisa, asking if I could visit Portland to see Ethan. She was hesitant. "He does not want to see you yet, Fernando," she said gently. "He is doing better here, but he is still healing. Give him time." I respected that, but I could not just do nothing. So I asked Lisa if she would give Ethan a letter from me. She agreed. I spent 3 days writing that letter. I must have started over 20 times. In the end, I kept it simple and honest. No excuses, no justifications, just the truth. "Ethan," I wrote, "you were right. I failed you when you needed me most. I was so focused on making you strong that I forgot you needed to feel safe first. I chose my career over your pain. I dismissed your suffering because I was too proud and too blind to see what was right in front of me. I am not asking for forgiveness right now. I do not deserve it. I just want you to know that I see you now, I hear you now, and I am working every single day to become the father you deserved all along. I love you. I am sorry." I sent the letter with Lisa. Ethan did not respond. I told myself that was okay. I did not do this for a response. I did it because it was the right thing to do. But I did not stop there. Every 2 weeks I sent another letter, not pushy, not guilt-tripping, just updates on my progress. I told him about my therapy sessions, about what I was learning. I told him about the parenting support group I joined for fathers whose kids had been bullied. I told him I had cut back my hours at work and started volunteering at a youth outreach center in Denver. I wanted him to see that I was serious about change, that this was not just words. 6 months passed. Then one day my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Ethan. "I read your letters." My heart nearly stopped. I replied carefully, "Thank you for reading them. No pressure to respond. I am here whenever you are ready." 3 days later, he texted again. "Can we do a video call? Just 10 minutes. I said yes immediately. That first call was awkward and painful. Ethan looked healthier, less gaunt, but his eyes were still guarded. We talked about nothing important for those 10 minutes. The weather, what books he was reading. I did not push, I just listened. At the end, he said maybe we could talk again next week. I said I would love that. We started having weekly video calls. Slowly, over months, Ethan began to open up. He told me about his life in Portland, about the therapist he was seeing, about how Lisa had given him space to figure out who he was. He talked about his art, how he had started painting again. I listened to every word like it was precious, because it was. I shared my own journey, too. I told him about the things Dr. Brennan was teaching me, about learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of running from them. I admitted how scared I was of losing him forever. Ethan appreciated the honesty. I could tell. After 4 months of video calls, Ethan said he was willing to meet in person. I flew to Portland the next weekend. We met at a park near Lisa's house. I did not try to hug him. We just sat on a bench together watching ducks paddle across a pond. "How are you?" I asked. "Better," he said. "Therapy helps. Aunt Lisa helps." We sat in silence for a while. Then Ethan asked, "Why did you change Dad?" I turned to look at him. "Because I realized I was losing the most important person in my life," I said. "And I could not live with that." He nodded slowly. "It hurt so much when you did not listen," he said, his voice thick. "I know," I replied, "and I cannot take that back. But I want you to know that I am listening now." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "I am so sorry, son," I said, my own tears falling. This time, when I reached out and put my hand on his shoulder, he did not pull away. We sat there crying together as the sun set over the water. It has been 2 years since that day in the park. Ethan is 24 now, studying fine arts at a college in Portland. Our relationship is better, but it is not perfect. Maybe it never will be, and I have accepted that. Some wounds take a long time to heal. We talk on the phone every week, and I make sure to ask the question I never asked enough before. How are you really feeling? Not just how are you, but really feeling. Ethan has come back to Denver a few times to visit, though he does not stay long. He still keeps certain boundaries, and I respect them completely. He has built a life in Portland that makes him happy, and that is what matters most to me. Sarah and I divorced, but we have managed to stay civil for Ethan's sake. She has forgiven me more than I probably deserve, though she makes it clear she will never forget. I have a better relationship with my sister Lisa now, too. I call her often to thank her for being there when I could not be. She tells me that Ethan is proud of the work I have done, even if he does not always say it out loud. That means everything to me. I still see Dr. Brennan monthly. The work of unlearning a lifetime of unhealthy patterns does not happen overnight. I have learned so much about myself, about generational trauma, about what it really means to be strong. The biggest lesson I have learned is this: strength is not about never showing weakness. True strength is being vulnerable enough to admit when you are wrong, to sit in the discomfort of your mistakes, and to do the hard work of changing. For so many years, I thought I was teaching Ethan resilience by telling him to toughen up. But what I was really teaching him was that his feelings did not matter, that he could not count on me when things got hard. I spent so much energy trying to make him tough that I forgot to make him feel loved. That is the failure I will carry with me for the rest of my life. But I also learned something else. We inherit our parents' wounds, but we do not have to pass them on. My father raised me with emotional distance because that is all he knew. I started to do the same to Ethan because I had never healed from my own childhood. But the cycle can be broken. It takes courage and humility and a willingness to look at the ugliest parts of yourself. It is the hardest thing I have ever done. It is also the most important. I volunteer now at a community center talking to other parents about my story. I tell them what I did wrong, how I missed the signs, how I prioritized all the wrong things. If my mistakes can help even one parent listen to their child, then maybe some good can come from all this pain. Ethan and I are still healing. Some days are easier than others. There are moments when I see a flash of the guarded hurt in his eyes, And I know we still have a long way to go. But we are building something new, something honest. It is not the relationship I thought we would have when he was born, but it is real, and it is ours. I look back at that email from 2 years ago, the one that said, "I failed him." It does not hurt as much now because I know it was the wake-up call I desperately needed. That email was brutal and painful, but it saved both of us. It forced me to face the truth I had been avoiding. I was a terrible father when my son needed me most. So if you are listening to this and you have a child who is reaching out, who is crying for help, who is telling you something is wrong, please do not wait for a wake-up call like mine. Listen now. Put down your phone. Step out of your meeting. Make your child the priority, because some chances do not come twice. Some words cannot be taken back, and some wounds take years to heal if they heal at all. I am one of the lucky ones. My son is still alive, still willing to try. Not every parent gets that second chance. Do not waste the first one. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt unheard by someone you loved? Or maybe you are a parent struggling to connect with your child. Drop a comment below and share your story. Your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future stories. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, because we all need reminders about what truly matters. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it encourages you to have those difficult conversations before it is too late. Take care of each other out there, and remember, it is never too late to start listening.